Garage Podcast. This is crazy. Episode 8.
I know, it's amazing.
Been at this for 2 months. But,
and it's still winter here.
Yeah, kind of. Well, the snow's pretty much gone now, but...
Not in my yard.
It's spring. I was sweating today in my coat. I just wish that the mornings would decide that it's summer now, too. But,
that would be nice.
Yeah. That way I can actually just go wearing a t-shirt rather than a jacket and then be sweating the rest of the day.
Yep.
But, so, real quick before we start, episode 7, our Easter egg was cheese. So nobody commented on it, but if you got it right, then congratulations, and make sure to look out for this week's Easter egg as well. So this week we're covering the new McLaren 750S, which...
Or I call the McLaren's Corvette look-alike.
Mm-hmm. I'd say that's pretty similar, but to me, there's literally no difference between it and the 720S. It's a little bit more power, and it's a little bit lighter. It's not even to the point where it's... The only reason I would buy one, which I do want one, the only reason I would buy it, if I had a 720S, I wouldn't even bother ordering it, but I don't, and I'd like to get a brand new McLaren one day. So I plan on ordering a 750S eventually, but
750S seems like they came out with one because they needed to. Mm-hmm. There aren't a lot of upgrades, and yeah, it's lighter, but it's still a ton and a half. Mm-hmm. And compared to some of the other cars we've talked about,
like the Revuelto, that's a 300 horsepower jump. This only did 3. Like, it kind of... I know that they put a ton of work, time and energy and money into it, but it kind of feels lazy.
Well, when you look at the body style...
I can't tell the difference.
When I looked at the body style, it looked like a Corvette to me. And if I put them up side by side, yeah, there are differences, but the McLaren looks really boring. Like they threw it together, they wanted to make it look good, so they pulled some stuff from Corvette. But if I compare the McLaren and the Corvette side by side, I love the Corvette.
The Corvette looks amazing just because it's got jagged edges and stuff, but literally looking at the 750S, it looks no different from a 720S if you're familiar with it. And okay, even at least the 765 LT is a little bit more different. But
okay, so if you're driving down the street and a Lamborghini drives by, do you have to wait till it gets close enough so that you can see the logo?
No, you can tell if it's a Huracan or a Aventador.
Yeah, you can tell by looking at it. Mm-hmm. So you can tell a Ferrari is a Ferrari because they have a unique look. The Donkervort that we talked about last time with the long nose and the the cab on the wheels, it has its own unique look. I mean, if you see that coming, you know that's a Donkervort. Mm-hmm. But if you have a Corvette and a McLaren side by side coming at you, flip a coin.
I would say that the Corvette's the better looking one, but yeah, like you could park a 720S and the 750S. Granted, I haven't looked at photos of them side by side. There could be like front splitter differences and stuff like that, but it's just looking at the 750S, you could park them right next to each other and I would not know the difference.
Right.
And I'm a car enthusiast, so I pride myself on being able to tell the difference. So the new 750S was designed to enhance the agility of the car, and it got a new spring and dampener design with a new power steering pump. They also widened the front axles by 1/4 inch or 6 millimeters. It still uses the same 4-liter twin-turbo V8. It has a higher boost pressure, twin fuel pump, 739 horsepower, and it produces 590 pound-feet of torque.
Did you talk about the top speed?
No.
206 miles an hour.
Oh, that's a wuss.
It is. The Corvette is 208 miles per hour, I think. Well, I don't have the top speed on the Corvette. But the McLaren is 206 with a weight of 3,000 pounds or 1.5 tons because that makes it sound heavier.
Yeah, but still, it's kind of stupid. Manufacturers aren't going as fast as they should be able to. I hope that they're putting limiters on these. I feel like it's kind of lazy just because manufacturers, if they're building their engines to, if you're building your engine to a limit rather than putting a limiter on it, then you're an idiot.
Well, I don't agree with putting a limiter on there. Because
you have to legally, but I want the option as a guy that wants to own a car manufacturer. My engines will be built to go well over 200 miles an hour. But we might put a limiter on there just because it would be for a safety thing, for safety regulation. And
but would I be able to take the limiter off?
Yes, it would be.
Then I'm okay with that.
That's what people do. Like the Veyron Super Sport tops out at I think it was 253 was the top speed, but it's capable of 270 because they have a limiter on it. But
well, and if the car's designed to go fast, then we should drive it fast.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's always rich people that are, I just want to drive this good, nice car. And then there's people, I want to go fast and I want to be really, really fast.
I'm one of those. If I have a gas pedal and an engine, I want it to go as fast as I can. There's nothing that makes me more annoyed than getting behind somebody. And let's say you're at a light and the speed limit's 55 miles an hour after the light. And so you're behind somebody and it takes them a good mile and a half to get up to 55. Mm-hmm. No, yeah. I don't like that. If I'm first one out of the light, I'm up to 55 as fast as I can. And
mm-hmm. That's me too.
In my truck, it's probably about 10 seconds.
Mine's about 12 and a half, 0 to 60. But
that's because you drive a Chevy.
Yeah. It's also because you also have to remember my truck's 15 years older than yours.
That's true.
So it's not gonna be as fast.
So have you blown the carbon out of the engine?
I do that all the time. I'm taking care of it. So it does 0 to 60. The 750S does 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds, and to compare that, the 720S does that in 2.9, which is a substantial gain, but it's like nothing essentially.
It's just a slight upgrade to their current car.
I love McLaren and I love the 720S, but I feel like the 750S, it would have been better just to not update it, not make this, and do something like, based off the names, do an 850S or an 800S, something that's 50 plus horsepower jump, and it's just better.
I think the manufacturers get in this rut where they feel like they need to come out with something new every year rather than doing like Lamborghini does and take 15 years to design a new car, and then when it comes out, it's an amazing vehicle.
Mm-hmm. But one thing that I've also noticed is the 720S was the flagship model, and now this is going to be the new flagship. It's the thing that makes them the most money, so of course they're going to do a little bit, but it would be better, let the 720S run for a little bit longer on production and produce a better performing car and then release that.
Yeah.
Like what Lamborghini did. They cut the Revuelto off 6 months ago. I mean, not the Revuelto, the Ultimate, Aventador Ultimate, about 6 months ago. And then they started the Revuelto a couple weeks ago. But that's what you should do, is you should have a better car waiting to be started.
Well, and if you look at their price model, the base price for the coupe is $330,000, and the base price for the Spider is $350,000. And for a car that has similar specs to that, again going back to the Corvette, it starts at $132,000 and goes up to $164,000. So for half the price, you get the same type of performance.
And I've built, I go on Chevy, I go on tons of manufacturers' websites and just build out what I think would be an awesome car. And my Corvette was 162, I think, and it's a 3LT, and it's got a ton of options.
No, it's got all the options, and that's what it runs with, all of the options.
And it's probably faster than the stupid McLaren.
So with the McLaren, you're paying a lot for the name.
That's more what you're paying for. But
And I looked at a website that did a side-by-side comparison with the McLaren. It wasn't the 750S, but it was a McLaren, a Corvette, and the Lamborghini Huracan. And they ranked them. And the Huracan came in first, Corvette second, McLaren third, and the things that they were looking at. And you look at price points, and I look at McLaren and I'm going, why is it so expensive when I can get a Corvette for cheaper and it does just as well, if not better?
That's the hard part. Is the Z06, it was based off the 458, and it's a really good car, but you're paying for names at the level that you're looking. I am more than happy to pay $350,000 for a Lambo, because like the STO is completely different from the Evo. There's completely different, versus or comparing the Aventador to the Huracan, completely different. You can tell that those are completely different cars. Versus the 765 LT and the 720S honestly don't look that different. It looks like they just pick one body style, kind of like what Lotus did for a while, like at least in the Exige. They just pick one body style and then do little tweaks.
Well, all the auto manufacturers do that. I mean, you look at Ford and their F-150, you don't see big changes in it. You see just a little bit here and there. And that's what we're seeing with McLaren. It's just a little bit here and there. And
then usually Ford, like every 5 years or 5 to 10 years, will change out the body style entirely. So like your 2011 is different from the new 2020s.
Right.
They've changed out the body style, but I think they did that in like 2015. But at least they're, every once in a while, they're updating the body. But McLaren's been doing, even the 750S looks pretty similar to the the 570S looks pretty similar to the 750S. Like,
yeah,
they don't change very much. But
how many do they put out a year?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
If I had to guess, probably around 1,200. I'm just making up a number, but, or I could have heard it eventually. I don't know, but so the 750S also features the new lightweight exhaust, and it has a new rear wing that is 2 3/8 inches taller than the 720S wing. And so the wing is bigger to make more room for the new exhaust, and it draws out, and it has a grill in the back that, a rear mesh to pull more hot air out of the engine bay. Downforce was increased by 5%, which you would think is a bad thing, but when you're looking at track performance, downforce is your friend.
Yeah.
You're not really worried about speed. You're worried about how fast you can go around a corner.
Yep.
Which is why the McLaren Senna is probably my favorite track car. In all my racing games, I do a 1,000 horsepower McLaren Senna, and the thing is unbeatable. So they focused on aerodynamic balance. They added a new front flitter.
Everybody needs a new flitter.
A fritter. A new front splitter. They have a new instrument cluster, a new infotainment screen, and now has Apple CarPlay standard, which I think is good because now Lambo has it as well.
Oh, I think it's good. We have a Subaru and it has Apple CarPlay in it. It's really nice. I plug in my phone and I have complete access to everything.
That's I really like listening to Spotify when I turn on my phone. Well, whenever I get into my truck, my truck doesn't have Apple CarPlay. I have a little USB plug that I put in a charging port, and it runs just fine. But I love listening to my own music. The radio's fine, but after you've listened to it for so many years, they just repeat everything.
I don't like listening to radio.
No.
They just chatter.
Yeah. So,
tell me about the custom setup button.
So this new custom setup button is right next to the new infotainment center, and you can customize. So essentially, you can essentially tune the vehicle, And you can, whenever you hit that button, you can turn it on or off, and you can tune it to how you want the car to perform. So if you want something that gets good gas mileage, you turn that on and it'll do good gas mileage. If you want something that'll be fast on the drag strip, you set that as your setup button, and then you can do that, or you can focus on acceleration. Like, it is entirely customizable, and I think it's actually really good idea.
Yeah, it really is. I like their butterfly doors.
Mm-hmm.
Those look really nice.
Yeah, like normal McLarens, but the new 750S weighs 3,062 pounds, which is 66 pounds lighter than the 720S.
Okay, they're billing it as a lightweight car.
Yeah. So
they only lost 60 pounds to make it lightweight?
I literally weigh double that. So the moment I get into the car's weight just went up.
And it's back up to where it was.
Yeah. Actually, more than it was, but...
And it's, like I said, 1.5 tons.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't really cut that much weight off of it. If you compare it to the Donkervort, which weighs about half of that,
mm-hmm.
I think they would gain a lot more speed and performance if they actually focused on weight rather than cutting off a few pounds here and there.
I mean, 66 pounds is a lot of weight to shed, but when you, once again, comparing it to the Revuelto got a battery which is incredibly heavy, and it still shed weight. It shed more weight than the 750S did.
Yep.
And it's got a battery pack and 1,000 horsepower. If McLaren did something like that, then they would have my attention with the car. But it's honestly not worth it.
It's just a 720S. It's a follow-on. If you like McLarens, you're collecting them,
mm-hmm.
then yeah, you'll probably want to get this one. But if you're looking for a really nice supercar,
it's no different from a 720S, and you can get a 720S for $200,000.
Mm-hmm.
And that's used with maybe 1,000 miles on it, but like, still won't actually be more than 1,000 miles, but used, and you still get a cheaper car rather than having, because $330,000 is the base price.
Yeah.
So you can spend $400,000 easily. So you can pay for a 720S half the price and get basically this exact same car. And if you tune that car, it can produce 900 horsepower, no problem.
Yeah.
I would honestly buy a 720S before I buy a 750S. I remember saying at the very beginning of the podcast that I would get one of these just because I want a brand new one. But when you run the math, it's honestly not worth it for the 750S to pay double the price when you can just do a huge tune on a 720S.
Would you rather have one of these?
Yeah, a V22 Osprey.
Yeah, it's in.
They make residential versions of those.
I need one.
Hopefully we'll be able to play with one day. But yeah, honestly, it's not worth it. I honestly would have rather had McLaren taken longer and brought out a new car than just rebranding the 720S and calling it better.
Yeah.
And they say new benchmark. That is not a benchmark. When you set benchmarks, so let's say the 720S is here and the next step up. They went right here. Like, virtually nothing.
It's not a benchmark. It's just a scratch on the bench.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. It's a benchmark. But anyways, thanks to all of you for checking out this episode. This video's taken a lot longer than I was expecting. I was guessing like 10 minutes, but it looks like we're going to be at like 20.
That's because I was talking about the Corvette, because I like it better.
Mm-hmm. I think it's mainly my ranting about it. But, so, what do you think? Worth it or not?
Not worth it.
Mm-hmm. It's just not worth the price, and it's not that much better.
Yeah.
But anyways, thanks to all of you for watching, and make sure to like, subscribe, and share this with your friends, and we will see you next time.